Hi, this is Kimberly Reed. Is Optimists Always Win YouTube channel. I'm with my friend, Ed Robinson. He is one of my favorite trainers, facilitators, all around great person. I have known him for several years. We're down in Miami. We both facilitate at the same conference each year. Oh man, we're actually at the tail end of the conference, and I told you all we're going to talk to fascinating people, and I think the world of Ed. He's like an informal mentor to me. He doesn't know it, but he always drops gems in my lap every time I see him. So I wanted him to give you all some. So today, we've been talking about entrepreneurship, but we're going to also talk, and Ed is an entrepreneur. And I might sneak in a question about entrepreneurship, but I really wanted Ed to talk about leadership because he really talked about some really great things. But also, now I'm thinking about it, I might ask him to drop a gem about sales to help you take your business from from good to exceptional, right? Or from great to exceptional. So Ed, tell everybody, what do you do? Who are you? Give us your 10-second commercial.
Wow, my 10-second
or
commercial.
Or your 30-second commercial, right? That's what we teach people, right?
I'll keep it concise.
Okay.
I'm a recovering CPA.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I technically teach what I call the ABCs,
Yes.
how to grow their business and how to grow leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And the ABCs are attorneys, bankers, CPAs, as well as entrepreneurs.
That's right.
So I'm constantly working with people, trying to help them build better leaders, at the same time reduce or eliminate revenue drought. So I want them to grow their revenue and their sales as well. So those are the two spaces I like playing.
Yeah, and you play well. I tell you. So Ed, let's talk about entrepreneurship for a minute.
Okay.
What would you tell a new entrepreneur, and what would you tell an existing entrepreneur? What would you tell them? You've been in the game how long?
32 years.
Yeah, I mean, you've been there. You've succeeded. You failed. You've done it all, right? What would you tell them? What gem? What nugget? Impart some wisdom to that person?
Well, it's interesting. Being in this industry for 32 years, what it's allowed me to do is go through some downtime. And when you go through downtime, you find out what you're really made out of.
Yes.
And oftentimes these downtimes, whether I'm talking about the pandemic, whether we're talking 9/11, whether we're talking about the real estate crisis and banking crisis in 2008, what it does is it makes you know what are the solidifying factors that creates the foundation of your business. And a lot of it is build relationships.
Wow, wait a minute, Ed. I don't mean to. Listen, I don't mean to stop you, but people don't understand the diamond of relationships. Dee brought it up earlier. Relationships are really, they say relationships are your network, but that can be more true.
Yeah. Well, I use a formula. I said that basically in post-pandemic, building relationships is the fuel for your future growth.
No question.
And not only is it future growth, it's today's sustainability. Because if you're not taking care of the people who are your clients already, and you do that by building stronger relationships with them, when tough times come, they're going to disappear. But if you stay in touch with those clients, you have a strong relationship, you're constantly putting yourself in a position where you can help them with their challenges, you've got staying power.
Yeah.
And that staying power is, I think, what most entrepreneurs are looking for.
That's true. And do you think that, and you brought up something, because a lot of times I think because we the nation just kind of went through and still going through the global pandemic. But people forgot, you kind of forget now about 9/11 and the other crises that we went through.
Absolutely.
Right? What do you think that we're different as far as different in leaders, right? Different entrepreneurs. Do you think we're different from those crises? So there is a 9/11 entrepreneur, a pandemic entrepreneur. Do you think that we're kind of just the same?
But they're all different, and I'll share with you what one of my mentors shared. Okay. There's the pandemic of 2008. It wasn't a pandemic, but it was definitely an economic crisis, economic downturn. Mm-hmm. And my philosophy is in every economic downturn, somebody becomes wealthy. But you have to be paying attention to it. And a lot of people who are in charge today, let's call it in 2023, were not even in business in 2008. Think about it. How many years ago was that? Some 15 years ago.
Wow, sure was.
15 years. Take 15 years from a typical millennial. They're 20 years old.
right.
So they weren't in there, so they didn't have to deal with that crisis. So this pandemic was the first time that they had to deal with real crisis, and it's not just a national crisis. This is a global crisis.
That's right.
And you heard the term pivot a lot.
Yeah.
Pivot your business.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
To the extent that it was ad nauseum. But me, I'm an ex-basketball player.
Yeah.
I played the pivot.
And he's sitting down. You all don't see. He is really tall.
The magic of pivoting is having a different perspective.
Yeah.
You pivot in the post so that you have a different position, a better advantage. And oftentimes we get so stagnant of where we are, we're not looking at other possibilities. Mm-hmm. But when you pivot, it gives you more perceptions and more observations. Mm-hmm. Had a client pivot from just doing dry cleaning for professionals like you and I, who would send their stuff to the dry cleaning. During the pandemic, we weren't going to work.
No. Yoga pants.
People were doing. Well, I didn't do a lot of yoga pants, but the shirt and tie wasn't there either.
No, right. Totally.
So just the pivot to say who is working and who needs that service. Right. So I directed them to go take care of some first responders. And they did for free a hospital, first responders, and that hospital told other hospitals, and all of a sudden my client, the cleaner client, had to buy some cars. They went and picked up first responders' clothes, and they didn't only sustain their business, it elevated their business.
Wow.
So when the pandemic started slowing down, they now had a whole different service line that trumped the service line they had prior to the pandemic. And it was all about pivoting. It's not about saying what we don't have, but what can we do now different than what we did before.
Wow, that's such a powerful story, because a lot of times fear prohibits us from pivoting.
Absolutely, you're right.
Wow.
We get frozen in what we're used to doing.
And we don't want to pivot, and your client, with the help of you, of course, that was innovative. So innovation, pivot, and we still can use those practices now.
Absolutely. Right? I always say, when you hit any challenge, if in fact you can pivot, it allows the opportunity for innovation. And that opportunity for innovation creates opportunities. And it's in the opportunities that we find the gold.
I told you all. Oh my God. We have to do a part 2 with Ed, because he's just amazing. So Ed,
my pleasure.
Before, oh my God, I told you he's amazing. So Ed, before we kind of bring the plane in, wisdom, gems, what would you tell today's leader that they need to pay attention to? We're in a different space. We're thinking about different things. Our teams are different. And leadership isn't always, and let me clarify something. Leadership isn't always about leading other people. Leadership is also yourself, right? Is also, individual leadership. But what would you tell someone who leads teams and also, trying to identify their own purpose, their own self-leadership? What would you tell someone now, where we are in this and during these times, and what would you tell them?
Wow. We have strengths. First of all, in the people we hang out with. I think I'm stronger just by hanging out with you. You know what I'm saying? Because you hear. I mean, seriously, you hear nuggets of wisdom coming from other folks, and you want to be with other great minds. But recognize leadership isn't about getting more followers. Leadership is about developing future leaders.
Say that again. Say that again, Ed.
Leadership is not about getting more followers. It's about building up the people who can become future leaders.
Excellent.
And if you can look at the people who are following you and reach in there, and there's some people, I put them in 3 categories. Non-producers, producers is the larger group, and producers of producers. Well, first of all, producers of producers are leaders themselves.
Right.
And their responsibility is to go to the producers and say who there have the bandwidth to become a producer and lead other folks. So constantly look for other leaders, constantly grow other leaders, regardless of what your model. I mean, the basic model of leadership is a family. You know,
Right.
as parents, we lead our children in terms of their mindsets, their values, and the directions that they go. And if we're constantly, instead of having them follow us, build them so that we're teaching them to be a better leader, so that eventually, quick story, you know, we all want to raise our kids to be great, right? And we raise our kids to do certain things. I'm blessed. I've got 3 sons.
Oh.
And, you know, they live in 3 different cities.
Lucky them.
Houston, Dallas, and Charlotte. So I go to Charlotte to see my oldest son. And I'm hanging out with my oldest son. We all go to dinner. I love networking and hanging out with people over food.
Me too.
I grew up with hanging out with people over food.
Yeah.
So after that, I always recommend, let's go to dinner, let's talk. And I'm with my grandkids, we're doing some things, it's like great. Then the bill comes, I reach for my wallet, and I heard magic words. Magic words. Pops, I got this.
You sound like my dad. You guys cannot wait till we say that.
I got this.
That means you've done a great job. I love it.
That was music to my
I
heart.
love it. I love it. Because that means that you all have done a fantastic job. But really, you know, Ed, and I know you, and lucky sons. You know, you guys, you know, and I told you all this story earlier, you know, my dad is my hero. But, you know, when you know that you all have done a job well done, not only when you hear those words, but when we look at you with such inspiration. It's not adoration, it's inspiration.
I understand that.
Because you inspire us, and just like you just said that, to give examples, not to follow you, but to give us examples and the tools to create other leaders.
Absolutely.
And that's inspiration.
I'll tell you a guarantee. I guarantee that your hero, your dad, looks at you, his daughter, as his hero.
I hope so.
I'm sure he loves the leader you've become.
Well, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is such a wonderful time, wonderful conversation. And Ed doesn't know. I'm going to put him on the hot seat in a second right now. So Ed.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I always like to put people on the hot seat a little bit. So I'm gonna. Do you listen to gospel music?
I do.
Okay. Let's see. James Cleveland.
Okay.
Or Fred Hammond?
Oh, you went with 2 old schools. You know, I have to tell you, I like both of them.
Okay, got to pick one.
I'm gonna do you a bad.
Okay, what?
How about Marvin Sapp?
Okay, so he didn't pick either one, but he picked Marvin Sapp, whom I love too.
Okay.
So, okay, Marvin Sapp. Okay, good. All right, so let's see. All right, Zoom or in person?
Every time, face-to-face has a better way of reading and building. Sometimes Zoom is necessary or Teams is necessary. But if I'm trying to build something, if I'm trying to grow someone, you know, they say that when we communicate, we're either trying to help someone grow, or if we're going adult to adult and trying to build a leader, I need to be face-to-face.
Yeah.
Because I need to read all that as, you know, the body language, the tonality, the movement, your eyes, your comfort level. And you can only do that face-to-face. Nothing wrong with Zoom.
Yeah.
It's how we stay in touch sometimes.
Sure.
But if I'm building and I'm growing, and if I have jugular issues that I need to talk to somebody about, can't do that on Zoom.
Yeah.
No. Do it face to face.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Thank you for answering those hot seat questions.
Like
Guys, Ed, tell people, Ed Robinson, thank you so much. Just told you, fascinating people. How can people get in touch with you? And also, you still do coaching, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so tell people how they get in touch with you.
No, we really do three things. We coach in the areas of leadership and business development. And the best way to reach me is through my email, ed@edspeaks.com. My URL is edspeaks.com. So if you want to go to my website, you can see some of the things and the people we've helped. But a direct call is always good too.
Oh, wow. Look at that. See, I give you access. All right. Hey, guys, thank you so much. You know, this is a series while we're here in Miami. One thing I will tell you, get your pens out, get your papers out, however you take notes. This is learning at its finest. Great people. Ed Robinson. I'm Kim Reed. See you soon.